Hi, I'm Kawa, and this is QWA Podcast. In this show, we invite friends from the architectural fraternity for a casual conversation. From design think tank to integrated practice, we discuss the trials and tribulations of architectural pursuit. We hope this informal sharing will spark conversation among the listeners. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. And this is episode 3. With me today, we have Fira from Firadaus Khazis Architect and also Spacelab. So maybe some background. I think we first met during the preparation of Venice Biennale of 2016, something like that. And I think since then, we occasionally meet each other dekat PEM event, university create or review, and then eventually I moved from Taylor's to UCSI because you mentioned there's a placement there. And I think today we want to talk about the dynamic between architecture practice or ACP, Architectural Consultancy Practice, and also a design and build entity. So maybe before we begin, Fira, maybe you can explain what is ACP and what is design and build. What is D&D?
Okay. ACP, as we know, the Architectural Consultancy Practice lah, and DMB is design and build contractor. Okay, so ACP is normally prepare the design, get in touch with the client, get in touch with the client to work on the brief, the costing, and also the final design and how to get the approval from the authority, and also to deliver the project on site, prepare the drawing, to find the contractors, and also finish up the project in terms of providing drawings, and also any technical issue that arise on site need to be resolved by the architects from the consultant practice. The design build contractor is actually doing the build part, but because we got the design part, design and build, the word design and build, the design is actually taking up some portion of architect works, put into the contractor's contracts. So design and build contractor a bit different from normal contractor. The contractors for design and build will take some part of the architect works, but because it's a design build contractor, get in touch with the client at the first phase, means that the project seems to have locked with the clients, so there's no tendering process. Right. If the design build contractor have hired architect, they will find architect to get help on the approval, and also the technical issues, and also where else things that relate to bylaw. So is a bit different than normal contractors, and towards the end it's all the same like normal contractors. I deliver the projects towards the end, and then at the end of the project you get the CCC, which back to the architect task. So basically what I see design build is more like an architect being a contractor, or contractor being an architect, is wearing the two hats at the same time.
All right. So meaning that they take more responsibility lah. Meaning if architect being a contractor, they take responsibility of the construction. If contractor being an architect, they also take some responsibility of the design, I would say. So obviously they are different in nature and in operation. So since you have both entity, okay, FKA, your sole proprietorship, and also Spacelab, and I'm a bit curious about the interaction between these two. I mean, do all Spacelab's submission design done by FKA, and do FKA's design work is always standard by Spacelab, or how can you explain how does these two entity interact in your case?
Okay, for most of my the project that we're having, actually the project comes through FKA first. Right. And then what we'll do with the clients is we will discuss about who going to be the contractors. So the client, we give options to client whether they want to find external contractors, or they want to get us to get involved with the construction. So the dynamic between these two is actually when we design, we know that it can be built. But the problem is when you get to smaller projects which require the a bit little detail. For example, like if you want a slim coping, RC coping that coming up like 1.5 meter or 2 meters, it require a little bit details like the steel, what the steel inside, will it be a Y20 or Y25? So that kind of thing, the normal contractor, which we often encounter, reject that. They always have a mindset that cannot be done because of the steel is too thick, the method is too hard. But when we design, FKA design, we know that it can be built. When we get our team, the spacelab team, to build it, it can be delivered. So whatever we design at FKA, for sure can be built by spacelab. So that's the dynamic that we can guarantee what can be delivered. But not most of the time work designed by FKA will be built by spacelab because of clients' request. We got few projects that client request the contractors to be their friends or their cousin, but at the end we are struggling to get the quality.
Right. So meaning that if it's done by someone else, it's very hard to ensure buildability or quality of FKA's design.
Depend on the contractors.
Depends on the contractor, yeah, obviously. So I saw this sort of like trend of architects actually going into building, meaning they become builders themselves. And I think there's a lot of potential of offering a total solution, meaning design and then eventually build them. Because eventually client want them their property to be built, to be renovated. So you can somehow get lead or potential project from both sides, from contractor side and architecture. So do you have like do you keep numbers percentage wise, maybe commission that coming through these two entity? Is it like 50-50? How does it work? Yeah.
Actually, the way we work is totally separate entity in term when before start the construction. So for the architecture work, we still obey the SOMF, except that we take up the tendering process phase. So it means that we got the five phases.
Yes.
Yeah, design.
So contract documentation is off. Is omitted.
Yeah, we take up we take up that one. So it means that the price get lesser for reason that because when we as an architect being a contractor, we do not need to prepare that such document.
Contract document,
Contract document. And also for constructions, it gets for construction management on the contractor's part, it become lesser on the price for the spacelab because of we are on site to coordinate the sites, to look at all the labor's work. So we charge on the construction by the architects, but by the spacelab, the price for the management, it gets slightly less because of we are the same entity but separate names when you get into construction.
Because there is an overlap of work there, so you can just omit one side. Yeah. Interesting. So as you mentioned just now, FKA mainly gets the commission first, then to spacelab. Is it like so?
Correct.
Would you say 60-40, FKA first?
I would say. Do you mean the workload or the
from where the work comes from? Is it more?
I would say
come
50-50.
50-50 lah, equal lah.
Because the construction part is actually not that easy. Especially when you do something that architect have imagined beyond. Very slim concrete, very weird ceiling type. So the contractors part will take a little bit hard work to finish it up.
Right. So I think a lot of small project owners don't really understand the details of people that they hire to work on their property. I mean, some people say that we don't need an architect. We can, go straight to a contractor, and most of them, to be honest, a bit more comfortable working with a contractor and not architect, because the presumption that architect service might incur additional costs and might complicate the procedures. So how true is that, first of all, and how do you navigate such situation?
First of all, it's very true. The moment that the client knows that we have a contractors company and we say that we want to somehow take over the project when you get into constructions, offer the client the service to be contractors, the client offer back to us, why don't you just do the contractor works? Why don't you just take out the architecture work, which is the design part? I just want a straightforward buildings without approvals, and then just get it done. So the way we advise clients is actually, because we know how these authorities find all the owners that do illegal renovation. So we try convince that without the approval, the construction work might have delay due to obstacle by the authorities. Because during the construction, imagine that if we are running the construction at 20% and the authority comes without the approval, then everything will put on stop, because of they will put a yellow tape on top at our side, and everyone have to stop work, and the dynamic and the momentum of the working is not there anymore. So that's a huge risk to the clients. So once they understand that, they start asking for friends whether this is true or not. Then after a while, I would say 80% of them will come back to us, say that, okay, I need the approval.
Right. So, I mean, talking about small property owners or small client, maybe if we shift on the other side of the pond, bigger clients or clients that have intention to build larger development, which I saw some proposal in FKA's website or Facebook. I think, I presume it's fairly norm for ACP or architects to actually design and produce concept proposal for free, okay, without any commitment or prospect of getting any token or the appointment. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel this norm, or is an acceptable practice where small practice especially that doesn't have continuous flow of work? Do you think we need to entertain these free proposals?
When I start, I also fall into that. I first fall like 1 month or 2 months. I already fall into that trap where the contractors try to get free proposals. I try to get them to sign letter of awards, but they keep kind of delayed or find excuses. Okay. After a while, I found that this type of clients which doesn't want to talk about letter of awards only deserve free sketch.
Right.
In fact, the sketch should be charges. So the way we practice now, as a small firm, is we always remind them that there is a fee for the design. Although I think clients a bit scared when they see the big sum of the fee. So what we propose to them, I would say like the introduction fee for the designs. And then what we'll do is, if it get locked, we will absorb the introduction fee under the design schematic
phase.
So it's not going to be a free thing, although at the introduction it will be a bit cheaper than what is supposed, because we normally try not to solve the technical part at the very beginning. So the price is going to be a bit lower, but when you get signed, the design schematic phase will follow back to SOF.
Is it? Do you think partly of the problem is because architects are entertaining those requests? I mean, especially for larger and more established, developers, they tend to using this term RFP or RFI, or fee proposal stuff. All these ambiguous terms that eventually leads to free work or free. Yeah, eventually it's a free proposal without any commitment. I mean, do you think architect is at fault?
I think by nature we are very optimistic, and
Right.
people know about it, and people take advantage of it. That's one thing that I wouldn't say it's our fault. It's our nature, but people taking advantage of it. When you say about the free design of RFP, yeah, I found a lot of people also invite us to join for the proposal, and we got few that we fall into that trap and try not to fall into it again. Some of it from our friends that we cannot reject, some of it from our ex-colleagues that went to some big developers and want us to be in, and promise us like this is confirmed, things like that, but we cannot reject it because of the by knowing them and try to help them, because sometimes they try to impress their bosses or their friends.
Right.
So I would say some of it, yes, we know it's free, but we put a little faith that if it's not happen, we will still charge it, at least for design part. But if it's not paid, then we have to some sort of accept that part of the investment part to get the network or to get the client knows us. But however, it shouldn't be free. It shouldn't be free.
So I think I saw some educational posting which I'm sharing right now, thinking that maybe it's a bit weird because architects, unlike any other profession, has to justify their worth or justify why their fee is such and such, and to the point where you need to do such public sharing. I don't see any accountants actually show that, or lawyers do that. So why do you think there's a gap of understanding between what public perceive architect do and what actually architect do? I mean, how do we close that gap between the public perception and what is the job of an architect actually?
Okay, to close the gap, first, I think I will talk about the problems first before I say the solutions.
Right.
The problems are because the contractors are actually administered by CIDB, while the architect is administered by the Lembaga Architect Malaysia.
Correct.
And I would say on the contractors part, there's a huge lack of authorities to contractors. I've encountered a lot of contractors that client proposed to me doesn't have CIDB license, and also because of that, they promise moon and star to the clients. They promise good work. They promise very speedy renovation process or construction process, but they actually forgot that if they are actually certified contractors, they went through the CIDB courses. They know that there's management fee that they need to take into account. There are a lot of other hidden expenses that they need to take into account. For example, if they are consulting in the work, some of the consultant will ask them to prepare shop drawings. So if they put the fee too low, then they don't have the fund to actually pay someone or pay their own staff to do the shop drawing for the architects. So what happened at the moment, the problem is the contractors mainly are not educated. I wouldn't say all, but there are few that are not educated. So what happened when they are not educated? The clients get pulled by these contractors because they are offered the best price in town. So the clients has already forgot about the requirements, or they heard about the requirement, but they seems like get triggered that these contractors can give me a best price in town. Why should I get the architects? Okay, on the architect part, the problem comes when the architects, I do not know how others practice, but I feel like some of the architects always left the construction phases a little bit loose. So when that happened, the client feel like, why should I pay the architects while the construction part it feel a bit loose? But the truth is the architect already has prepared the documents which good enough for the contractors to construct it. So by right the client, the architect should just come periodically instead of like every day, because some of the client expect the architect to come every day.
Right.
So the client knowledge of how architect works is totally not what what we normally practice. So I think the best way, like how the government try introduce on the way of avoid COVID on the TV, like the advertisements, like educational advertisements. We, the architects, should do the same. We should do the same so that everyone aware. Okay, what are the process? What are the consequences if they go into a wrong directions, and also other than consequences, whether their properties that they renovated have value or not. That's the most important thing. When client just know when they finish the project and they don't have CCC because they engage the contractors directly, definitely it will become a havoc at the end of the project. The client will blame the contractors. The contractor will say that I'm just a contractor. What you expect from me? So means that the architects, no, the clients almost all know about it, but they do not know deeply what are the consequences. So we need this advertisement, knowledgeable advertisement to actually teach the public.
It's like the strata advertisement that we see on the TV, right? I think that is the main draw of. I'm not saying qualified contractor. I'm not so sure, but there's a lot of social media posting. We can build your house for 100 something ringgit per square feet. All this stuff. But obviously, I get a lot of complaints when we do the same code. Let's say for 3,000 square feet of house. Architects' cost estimation usually will be higher to the fact that we take into account consultancy fee, submission fee, all those things. So I think the problem is that because of people has very little experience with architects, meaning that they only gonna be building their house once, so they will always try to get the sort of the best deal,
the best price, the best deal,
right?
The most confident contractor in the kampung. That's normally what happened.
Right. So okay, moving from talking about our potential client, maybe we want to talk about ourselves. So I've been talking to some friends. I think 6 months ago before the MCO, and I think there's a trend of newly minted architects, meaning they just pass part 3, they start to open their own firm. They're eager to open shop to the point where they take a lot of finance facility or personal loans, stuff like that, as working capital, to the point where it burdens them to the practice cash flow. And ultimately, of course, it will affect your personal finance, and to the point where they actually has to go back and work in other firms. Even though they open their own. So maybe you can share a bit advice on this newly open office, especially during these days where work is maybe not as abundant as before.
Okay, I think I'm not the best person to advise, but being running for 2 years, what I would say is keep the monthly cost low. I'm not the best person to advise because I actually tried to apply for the loans but I get rejected.
Okay.
But because I think after a year running it, I feel like there are few staff that must be in the office to run a lot of projects at the same time. For example, admins, senior draftsmen to help us to deliver a good quality product. But to do that means you need a sum of money. So I tell you the truth, we actually try to get the loan, but we didn't approve. So after that 1 year, what we do is we keep we keep our cost low. What we do is we find like whoever the freelance draftsman to help us with the drawings. They cost us lesser because we don't have to pay their KWSP. We don't have to like give bonuses. It's just based on the contracts. So, but what we do is we offer them by percentage. Like if you manage to complete this project from the design phase to assist project in the drawings for design phase up to the completions, then you get like 4 to 5% instead of just pay per drawings. With that, actually they have some responsibility into it. They feel like they are the staff, but at the same time they also engage with other architects that need their help. So they know that by having some percentage, they will deliver good jobs into it. Because if it's a bad job, means they don't get the others payment. So I think because we are now working in the digital kind of digital room, like we can do Zooms. So I found that MCO has really taught us that we do not need actually a proper office that everyone come in and work. So from there, I feel like, okay, we can reduce a lot of costs by engaging the freelancer. And then with that, it is manageable that we do not need a loan. So I think utilize the technology is the best way that we can actually go further with less cost.
But what if you get that loan that you're applying? Do you think FKA is already somewhere further ahead, or do you think more money will not affect your progress?
Okay, the game plan is actually when we get the loans, we will try to engage with the big developers. So it's a totally different game. But then when we know we didn't get it, we keep it low. We just get in touch with all the small times clients. Try to reduce the risk.
Yeah, I think that's all valuable inputs, and I think we have already 7 a.m. Yeah. Thank you, Fira. I think that's all we have that's all the time we have for this episode. You can like FKA's or Firadaus Khazis Architect and spacelab.my on Facebook or the website just mentioned just now. Please visit QWA YouTube channel and wait for the podcast to be broadcasted in Spotify. And thank you for joining us. Until next one. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Thank you.
If you enjoyed the session, be sure to subscribe to QWA YouTube channel so you will be notified if a new episode is posted. Thank you for listening. Until next time.